It's August 9th, 2015 at the Dublin Lake Club, and I'm here with
Peter de Marneffe and my daughter Francesca de Marneffe. And in the early 80s, when I was sometime in my 20s, I came to work for Charlie at his company, CAS, Competence Assurance Systems. Is that right? I think that's right.
I partly named it after myself. Systems, Charlie Atkinson.
Okay, Charlie Atkinson. Very good. And Competence Assurance System, CAS, which was located in Cambridge, Massachusetts, down on Garden Street.
Sherman Street, actually.
Sherman Street.
80 Sherman Street.
80 Sherman Street. Educational packages for pharmaceutical company salesmen that would give them the medical background they would need to be able to talk in an educated, informed way to doctors about the pharmaceuticals that the companies were selling. And then, after the beginning of CAS, Charlie partnered with someone who's Ned something.
Ned Herman.
Ned Herman. In fact, partnered with Ned Herman to start something called the Whole Brain Corporation. And the concept of the Whole Brain Corporation was based on the idea that the right brain and the left brain have different cognitive strengths and different problem-solving abilities. And Ned Herman's idea was that if we could access both sides of the brain equally, we would maximize our problem-solving potential. And Charlie was very interested in getting this idea across and applying it to education and specifically pharmaceutical company salesman education, but more generally to all sorts of problem solving. Is that right, Charlie?
That is so right and so accurate, and to hear it from you now, 33 years later.
That's right. Isn't that amazing?
33 years later.
That's right.
And that path that I was on to provide training to the healthcare pharmaceutical company, to make it available by using what I learned from B.F. Skinner in behaviors,
yes,
and cognitive psychology, and most importantly from Ned Herman,
yeah,
to form the Whole Brain Corporation.
Yes.
That's led to a lifetime of failures. And these failures have meant that I tried everything. And
well, that's great. You tried everything. That's what that's a great thing to be able to say.
And I had some successes, actually.
Yeah.
And the successes gave me an idea that when I had the big game, which was this is the 3-year anniversary, standing here on this, of being in Dublin and being stricken with West Nile virus.
Yes, right. 3 years ago, right? 3 years ago.
I went into, right up here in Dublin.
Yeah.
Jeanette took me off to the hospital.
Yeah. We were there. We were actually here that day. I think that day we heard. And you had it too, right?
Yes, but a little bit later, about a week later, and much milder.
Yeah.
She had West Nile
fever.
And this causes encephalitis, is that right?
It did with Charlie.
Yeah. So sometimes if you get bitten by a mosquito, you can get this virus, West Nile virus, and it can cause encephalitis with swelling of the brain, which is very serious. And then you have to use medicine, sometimes surgery and ventilation to control the swelling. Yeah.
But the West Nile virus is a broad spectrum afflictor, and in addition to the meningitis, you also get symptoms which I didn't get of meningitis, but I really got poliomyelitis-like symptoms, and was not only in a coma, but was completely paralyzed. And all the symptoms of polio are just like the ones that Peter Hewitt got back in 1953 here in Dublin, and got polio, and that FDR got in 1922. And FDR credited his polio, giving him the advantages of adversity. So when he went to Warm Springs to rehabilitate, he got a picture of what life was like and how it could be improved. And so when he gave this won the election in 1932 and gave his speech about, which isn't immediately coming to mind, but we have nothing to fear but fear
Itself.
Do you remember any of that?
Yeah, freedom and freedom. Well, I get that there's freedom speech and the fear speech, and I sometimes get them mixed up.
Yeah,
The four freedoms. This one's impatient. What do you want?
Exit. You got to walk home.
Yeah.
Thank you for being part of this little impromptu interview.
I wanted to ask about the same thing. I was thinking of going back and packing up. And
Yeah, go do that.
So you are all right.
I'm all right.
Okay.
But Peter and I are gonna.
We're gonna chat. I'm gonna get a brownie.
All right. What Roosevelt said was that the whole country is paralyzed, and he gave the banks a whole holiday, and then he figured out how to put people back to work who were desperate. Even last night on NPR, I was listening to Lake Wobegon, a rerun, but it was a song in 1930s. We're in the bread line and we're not having any fun. It wasn't on the boardwalk. They were in the bread line. And so these advantages of adversity, learning how to overcome, to take obstacles and make them your new path, is kind of a philosophy. And I know that you're now a philosophy professor.
Exactly, at Arizona State University, which was mentioned this morning in the New York Times by columnist Frank Bruni.
Oh, I love Frank Bruni.
He's writing a lot about college education and how the pressure that parents put on their children to get into the most competitive colleges is misguided, and people should be more sensible and more laid back about it. But anyway, he wrote something very nice about Arizona State this morning.
Sort of in the line of The Tipping Point and author.
Outliers. Is that who is Tipping Point? That's right.
He had an article about how be a big fish in a small pond.
Yes. Right. Yes. Yeah, that's fine.
And so
Yes.
that kind of idea is a big, important one.
Malcolm Gladwell.
And so how did they mention you in the article?
They said that a lot of the larger public universities are creating smaller colleges within a university that they call honors colleges. And so at ASU there's something called the Barrett Honors College, named after is it Charles Barrett, who's the CEO of Intel for a certain amount of time. And he said that the Barrett Honors College is the gold standard of state university honors colleges. I don't know what that means exactly, but it was a nice thing to say.
And then how did you get quoted?
I didn't get quoted. He just mentioned ASU.
Oh, he mentioned ASU.
Yeah, no, not me personally.
And ASU has an example of this?
Yes, an honors college which he calls the gold standard.
I get it.
Gold standard. That means that it's very good. It's the college against which other universities measure their colleges because it's so good.
Exactly.
Whether this is true,
well,
I don't know, but it was nice to say.
Where I am right now is I'm using this creative problem-solving process.
Yeah.
To apply to myself and my own health competencies. I have a doctorate in performance learning.
Yeah.
And back March, I said, I can't even change my own weight.
But you look great.
I do?
Yes. You look very trim.
3 years ago, when I came down with West Nile virus, I weighed 250 pounds.
Wow.
And I realize now that a lifetime of malnutrition had not only made me more susceptible to that virus, and my immune system had been really damaged, but that there's an epidemic of obesity, and that the doctors don't know how to fix it, and the pharmaceutical companies don't know how to fix it. And what is needed is education. And so I'm see that girl out there?
Yeah. Who's that?
She wants to redirect her life. Her name is Michelle.
Michelle.
And she wants to redirect her life to helping people get good nutrition.
Excellent.
And look how trim she is. And
She looks
she's
great.
a very
Looks
spry,
quite athletic too.
attractive,
Yes.
and interesting person. So this club is full of them.
Excellent.
So what I figured out how to do it and lost 20 pounds in the last 100 days.
I am proud of you. I'm impressed. I am impressed and proud.
Last Friday, I filed the Articles of Incorporation for the Whole Brain Foundation.
Yes, good.
And the Whole Brain Foundation is going to do research on me and my daughter-in-law to show what was the secret sauce we used. And it was using this creative problem-solving thing from 33 years ago.
Wonderful.
And further, that is going to lead to something I call the PacerCare.org. PACER stands for Planner, Advocate, Coach, Educator, Researcher for Patients and Families.
Very good.
And PacerCare.org will provide the tools and templates and places for people to share their stories, not by randomized clinical trials that show how one pharmaceutical product with a minor molecular manipulation can make an insignificant difference, and prove that it's significant by using elaborate statistical processes. Rather, it's going to take one patient at a time and identify their 8 major personal health competencies and show them how to do it so they can get out of the ICU, out of the long-term acute care, back to home, but preferably.
Very good. You know what, though, Dad? Francesca's impatient and she wants to play tennis with me, so I'm going to go off and play tennis.
Okay, fine.
But thank you very much for the lunch.
Francis, don't go away yet.
Hi, Charlie. How are you?
We talked last fall at the rowing thing, and we talked about your history of rowing on the Charles.
Yes.
And how you kept in shape all this time, and you are, with injury and illness relatively minor, you are planning to row in Henley again.
Well, actually, it's more complicated than that, Charlie. Last year, when we were at Henley, I was told that I would be invited. I was asked whether I was coming over again next year in 2016 in order to celebrate my victory in the WIFOs in the fall, stroking the fall in 1946, 70 years before.
46?
46, 70 years before. Now, the trouble is that, and I was looking forward to sculling over the course, because that's what they do. You row over the course at tea time or lunchtime or something of that sort. However, I wrecked my left shoulder again last fall, and I can't raise it higher than this.
Really?
The other thing is I ruptured my quadriceps. That's not going to be a problem. But I went out in a double scull in June for the first time since 2008 in Cambridge, from Cambridge Boat Club with a friend. I was barely able to do it. I then tried it in a single scull, and that's impossible. Therefore, we are going to go next year for the celebration, but whether I will be in a boat is very questionable.
That's a shame.
That is a shame.
I just want to mention that Dr. Francis de Marneffe was the head of McLean Hospital.
Yes, he was.
Are you talking about machine there?
For many years.
Oh, this is an interview. This is an interview.
This is an interview.
I didn't realize
He
that.
was interviewing me first, and now he's interviewing you. But
Dr. de Marneffe is the father of Peter.
And the grandfather of Francesca and Caroline, who
Absolutely.
you met earlier.
Yes.
And what I wanted to mention is that throughout my career at Competence Assurance System, I always needed a medical expert, because I kept getting these courses on anxiety, depression, and organic disease, and how to make a differential diagnosis.
Yes.
And Francis provided me with Dr. Jonathan Cole as my medical expert to do a level category 1 continuing medical education
CME,
course that we we built, and it was extremely successful.
Very good.
But on many occasions, Francis was